Gerone Wright here, and once again you're joining. Hello, everybody. Gerone Wright here, and once again you're joining me on my Gerone Wright channel here on YouTube. All right. In this video, I'm going to be going ahead and I'm going to share through my paranormal experience and encounter my interpretation of what happened in the UFO reported incident with Roswell back in 1940. I've been thinking about this over and over and over again. And I have been given, through my thoughts, this image of what actually occurred in Roswell and why this UFO, which is actually was confirmed first by the United States Air Force and by eye account witnesses about a flying type object, which was a UFO, and these aliens and what was possibly there. And I've been thinking about this over and over again for some time and I believe that what I'm about to disclose will be probably the most compelling and most believable account of what actually occurred in Roswell than any have been given to date. And this is my consistent pattern of being able to do these types of videos. Okay, now what do I believe happened there in Roswell? Well, through my paranormal experience and encounter, I believe that what landed in Roswell, okay, because it was confirmed that something was there. Even the United States Air Force states that something was there. So therefore, there was something there that came in, that flew in, and it crash landed. Okay, of course. The Air Force redacted this story, but that's of no moment. When once you hear my story, everything is going to come into place and make sense. I believe what crash landed in Roswell, in New Mexico, was not a identified. Well, it was an identified flying object to most people, but not to. After I believe what it was, to be totally honest, was a time machine. That's what I believe. Where do I get this from? Well, when it crashed, this object crashed, it was unknown to U.S. officials that went onto the site. But after they did their, upon first seeing this, they looked at it as what it was, a UFO. But upon closer inspection, they realized that this was an object that came from our world, but from a different time. And this is why they redacted their story. Because had they would have had released this story, because if it was a UFO, they would rather have you known that it was a UFO when it came from somewhere else than and to report on this story as they first did, than to take and say no. But what happened was that this object was an object that came from our world and in the form of a time machine. And the reason why they could not release that information to us because it would go against everything that we were already previously taught to believe, which was in religion, and how mankind believed, where we came from. This, what they actually, and the time of events which actually occurred here in our world, if you guys are following me. I'll put more in writing as well too. But it was a time machine. Now, as we all know, there was a foil-like substance. This is tin foil, aluminum foil, Reynolds wrap, that was actually associated with the object that was found, with the debris field. Okay. Right after that, NASA began utilizing this type of tin foil on its deep space probes. It's my position that they knew that our ancestors sent an object into space like NASA is doing now. Now, in this, what I believe in is happening right now, that the materials and all that NASA has utilized, that's going to deep space. Their deep space probes have the consistent material, this Reynolds wrap type, on the fins of these deep space probes. It's my position that these deep space probes, when they leave Earth's atmospheric layers and go in either direction in space, here's deep space here, outside here, leaving and going, it leaves, let's say Earth is here. Well, hold on, Earth is here. There. When you leave, we're going out into the future. All right, these objects which leave from any given place here within the closer rings to that of the sun, in the orbit with the sun, you're going into the future. So that object, and that's a deep space probe, automatically, once it leaves our world and travels away from our world, it becomes a time machine because it's going into the future. It's my position that these flights that NASA are making, now keep in mind with me that NASA has sent out its probe. It put in objects which included a golden disc and other relics they put inside to identify and associate these things with Earth. In one other scenario that this takes place, think about it. Those time capsules that people bury in grounds around our planet for people to find in the future. I just seen where they dug up one recently with regards to a mouse, a famous person, one of the first mouse that was made, a computer mouse, and the guy put it in there and he passed away and they went and dug it up. So these time capsules are in our world with these relics. So just imagine that NASA is doing the same identical thing, but instead not with on our world, but with space. NASA knows that Roswell crash incident was actually an object, a time capsule that was sent into space, into the future. And it was when it returned to Earth, it gave NASA and NASA officials, the U.S. officials, something to go by. And this is why there was a boom in technology after that object returned. Now, let's fast forward. All life forms on Earth now. We're in a future where life on Earth has, for whatever reason, become extinct. And then there's another cycle. There's cycles of life going on our planet that I believe that where there's a gap. And where this gap is at is caused by extinction. So let's just say that NASA knows all of this, which I'm saying that it does. They send these time capsules into space. These deep space probes has this Earth information, recordings of who we are, not just in visual. They have it in a visual sense, recorded sense, and all senses that we could possibly ever get this information. And on top of that, we don't know what's in these capsules. So let's just say that they put in these jars, let's just say for the sake that they put monkeys in jars in this capsule as well. They send these things out into space. Now, these space probes, from what I was hearing, can travel. They're billions and billions of miles away right now. They actually then left the entered into the interstellar place in space, meaning outside the bubble. Now, just imagine that object, after it done went as far as it can possibly go, and it's said to be traveling for millions and millions of years. Now, imagine that if what I'm stating is true, that space has a memory of the flight pattern of this object. And like a time capsule, the area that it traveled to, and that path that it traveled to, it must be returned back to the location from which it came from because of its metallic composition and its makeup. Well, you see, people, I believe that space has this a recycling type pattern, that the composition of a planet, the materials of a planet, and anything sent from one given planet has this boomerang effect, meaning that if I threw this pencil into space and it traveled no matter where it traveled, because of its makeup, it must be remanded back to where it came from, based on this cyclination of materials that is in space. And this pencil will ultimately, if I throw it into space, if I had this amazing ability to shoot this pencil off into space, because of its makeup, ultimately it will be returned back to where it came from. I believe that the Roswell incident is best explained not as a UFO, because if it was a UFO, NASA would not have redacted its story. I believe that what happened is that NASA, and it makes sense if you think about it, that the Roswell incident, and here it is back up here again, that what happened is that these people, in identifying, the Air Force as identifying this as being a UFO, realized that this was a familiar object, meaning that they realized that the object came from came from Earth. And it was something dealing with a time capsule of information that had now returned to Earth. And undetected by radar, it came back into our world. And I believe that the foil stuff that they are talking about that was on this object was part of this object's landing gear that actually either went out and made wings so this object can possibly safely, like a glider, glide into the Earth, or some type of balloon mechanism, like they said it was a balloon, that caused the object to float to the Earth, and even though it still crash landed, but to actually soften its land. And that's what the aluminum was. Now people, there is no other logical explanation for all of that. Just imagine that what I'm stating is true, that this is in fact, this Roswell incident was a time machine, not a UFO. And the objects and the beings that they said that were in there were actually everything that is based on our ancestors had acquired the ability to leave our atmospheric layers of our world and send these objects off into space. And then here we are, possibly thousands, maybe millions of years later. The preservation of all of these objects through a time capsule process, which we see going on today. The object was sent back into our world. It came back and crash landed. And we as humans didn't realize that it was our ancestors until, on the first, I'm going to put more in writing, but on our first sight of this, we thought that it was a UFO because we did not recognize none of the materials in there. But once NASA started doing their scientific investigations of it all, they realized that it was something that came from our world and said, hey, listen, we better shut this up because it goes against religion. It goes against everything that mankind knows today. So let's just let them think that there's a cover up, as opposed to there was other civilizations of people that have actually made of our world, which were our ancestors, that achieved space flight. And this would actually, if we told people that, then it would erase all history. And that, people, is what explains Roswell. I'm going to put more in writing, but just think about it. That Roswell incident being a time capsule, and just like NASA is doing now with this deep space, with their deep space probes, they're putting everything in there. They're putting in records with James Brown on recordings. I forget some of the other objects that they put in there. Just imagine that deep space probe right now that is billions and billions of light years away from Earth. Just imagine that this object returns back to our world after the existence of who we are today is wiped away, and other life forms then started back over in this cycle that I am suggesting takes place through an extinction and resurrection of mankind's type existences. So therefore, imagine this object colliding back with Earth, that these deep space probes that NASA sent out, and they're remanded back to our planet millions and millions of years later, when life has started all over again. And mankind's likenesses, similar to ours in intelligence, obtain or acquire these objects. This golden record that NASA put inside of this deep space probe and these other objects, it will give them the ability to actually tap into a past which actually would revive the future that this object landed in. I'm going to end there, people. I hope you understand this video. I'm not scripted, so everything is unscripted with me. So I hope you understand. I'll put more in writing. Thank you.